Atomic Habits by James Clear. Have you ever thought that the biggest changes in life don't come from huge decisions, but from the smallest actions you repeat every day? Most people believe success comes from dramatic moments, a big opportunity, a sudden burst of motivation, or one life-changing decision. But what if the truth is much simpler than that? What if the real secret to success lies in the tiny habits you barely notice? Think about it for a moment. Every day you wake up and perform dozens of small actions without even thinking. You brush your teeth, check your phone, maybe scroll through social media, drink tea or coffee, and follow the same routines again and again. These actions seem small and insignificant, but over time, they quietly shape the direction of your life. Imagine improving yourself by just 1% every single day. It sounds small, almost meaningless. 1% feels like nothing. But when those tiny improvements repeat day after day, week after week, and year after year, they begin to compound like interest in a bank account. Eventually, that tiny 1% becomes a massive transformation. This is the hidden power of small habits. The problem is that most people underestimate how powerful small actions really are. When we start something new, we expect instant results. We go to the gym for a week and expect a perfect body. We read a few pages of a book and expect to become smarter overnight. When the results don't appear quickly, we feel frustrated and give up. But real change doesn't work like that. Success is not built in a single day. It is built through hundreds of tiny actions repeated consistently. Just like money grows slowly through compound interest, your habits grow through what we can call the compound effect of self-improvement. Small habits are like seeds. When you plant a seed, nothing seems to happen for a long time. The soil looks the same day after day. You might even think nothing is growing. But beneath the surface, something powerful is happening. The roots are slowly spreading and building strength. Then one day, the plant finally breaks through the soil. Habits work in the same way. At first, the results are invisible. You might feel like your efforts are useless. But if you stay consistent, those tiny actions begin to build momentum. Over time, they create outcomes that once seemed impossible. On the other hand, small negative habits also work the same way. Skipping workouts, procrastinating, wasting time on distractions. These actions may seem harmless today. But repeated every day, they slowly push your life in the wrong direction. That is why habits are so powerful. They are the quiet architects of your future. Your daily habits determine your health, your knowledge, your success, and even your happiness. You don't rise to the level of your goals. Instead, you fall to the level of your systems, the habits you repeat every day. So, if you truly want to change your life, you don't need massive motivation or dramatic decisions. What you need is something much smaller, but far more powerful. You need to master the tiny habits that shape your life, one small action at a time. Have you ever noticed that many people try to change their habits again and again, but somehow they always fall back into the same old patterns? They start exercising, eating healthy, reading books, or waking up early. But after a few weeks, everything slowly disappears. The motivation fades, the routine breaks, and life returns to the same place as before. The reason this happens is not because people are lazy or weak. The real problem is that most people try to change their results without changing their identity. Think about it carefully. When someone says, "I want to lose weight," they are focusing on an outcome. When someone says, "I want to run a marathon," they are focusing on a goal. These things are good, but they are only surface-level changes. Goals focus on what you want to achieve, but they do not focus on who you want to become. This is where the idea of identity-based habits becomes powerful. Instead of asking, "What do I want to achieve?" the better question is, "Who do I want to become?" For example, instead of saying, "I want to read more books," you begin to say, "I am a reader." Instead of saying, "I want to work out," you start believing, "I am a healthy and disciplined person." This small shift in thinking changes everything. When your habits connect to your identity, they become much stronger and more natural. You are no longer forcing yourself to do something difficult. Instead, you are simply acting in a way that matches the person you believe you are. Imagine a person who believes they are a healthy person. When they see junk food, they naturally avoid it. Not because someone forced them to, but because it does not match their identity. In the same way, a person who believes they are a reader will find time to read books, even on busy days. Identity creates consistency. Every action you take is like a small vote for the type of person you want to become. When you read a few pages, you vote for becoming a reader. When you exercise, you vote for becoming a healthy person. When you learn something new, you vote for becoming a smarter and more knowledgeable person. One action may seem small, but when these votes repeat every day, they slowly shape your identity. This is why habits are not just about results. They are about becoming someone new. The most powerful habit changes happen when you stop focusing only on outcomes and start focusing on identity. Instead of chasing success directly, you build the habits of a successful person. Instead of forcing discipline, you become the type of person who naturally acts with discipline. Over time, the results begin to follow automatically. Your identity drives your habits, and your habits reinforce your identity. It becomes a powerful cycle where each action strengthens the person you are becoming. So the real question is not just what you want to achieve in life. The real question is simple but powerful. Who do you want to become? Understanding how habits work begins with a simple but powerful pattern that shapes almost every action in our daily lives. Whether it is checking your phone, drinking tea in the morning, or opening social media without thinking, most habits follow a predictable cycle. Once you understand this cycle, you begin to see that habits are not random. They follow a system that your brain repeats automatically. This system can be explained through 4 simple stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. The first stage is the cue. A cue is a signal that tells your brain to begin a behavior. It is the trigger that starts the habit. For example, the sound of a notification can become a cue to check your phone. Seeing a comfortable couch can become a cue to watch television. Even something as simple as feeling bored can trigger a habit like scrolling through social media. Cues are everywhere around us. They exist in our environment, in our routines, and even in our emotions. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment for signals that predict what will happen next. When it detects a familiar cue, it prepares your mind and body to act. The second stage is the craving. This is the motivational force behind every habit. The cue itself does not make you act. It only creates a desire. For example, when your phone buzzes, you do not crave the phone itself. What you really crave is the information, the message, or the social connection behind it. Cravings are powerful because they promise change. They promise that doing the habit will make you feel better in some way. Maybe it will reduce boredom, remove stress, or give you pleasure. This expectation of feeling better is what drives behavior. The third stage is the response. This is the actual habit you perform. It could be checking your phone, eating a snack, opening a book, or going for a walk. The response is the action that follows the craving. However, whether the response happens or not depends on how easy the habit is and how motivated you feel at that moment. If a habit is simple and convenient, you are much more likely to do it. If it requires too much effort, your brain may avoid it completely. The final stage is the reward. Every habit exists because it solves a problem in some way. The reward is the benefit you receive after performing the habit. It might be relaxation, satisfaction, entertainment, or a sense of accomplishment. Rewards teach your brain which behaviors are worth remembering. When something feels rewarding, the brain marks it as useful and tries to repeat it in the future. Over time, this cycle becomes automatic. This 4-step pattern repeats again and again throughout your life. The cue triggers the craving drives the response, and the response delivers the reward. Eventually, the brain learns the pattern so well that the habit happens without conscious thought. Once you understand this cycle, you gain the ability to change your habits. You can adjust the cues around you, shape your cravings, simplify your responses, and control the rewards. Instead of habits controlling your life, you begin to design habits that move your life in a better direction. The first rule of building better habits is surprisingly simple. Make the habit obvious. Many habits fail not because people lack discipline, but because the habit is hidden, unclear, or easy to forget. If something is not visible in your daily environment, your brain rarely remembers to do it. Human behavior is strongly influenced by what we see around us. Our surroundings constantly send signals that shape our actions. When certain objects, places, or situations repeatedly trigger a behavior, the brain begins to associate them with that habit. This is why awareness is the starting point of change. Before improving habits, it is important to notice the habits you already have. Many routines happen automatically without us thinking about them. From the moment we wake up until the moment we sleep, we follow patterns that have been built over years. A simple way to become aware of these patterns is to observe your daily routine carefully. Notice what actions you repeat every day. Some habits will help you grow, while others may slowly hold you back. Once these patterns become visible, it becomes easier to improve them. Clarity is another powerful tool in habit formation. Instead of having vague intentions like, "I will read more," a clear plan works much better. A specific decision such as, "I will read for 10 minutes at 9 p.m. in my room," removes confusion and makes the habit easier to start. This strategy is often called implementation intention. When the brain knows exactly when and where a habit will happen, the chances of following through increase dramatically. Another powerful method is habit stacking. This technique connects a new habit to an existing routine. Since the brain already remembers the current habit, attaching a new action to it creates a natural reminder. For example, after brushing your teeth, you might read one page of a book. After drinking your morning tea, you might write down your daily goals. By stacking habits together, the new behavior becomes part of a familiar routine. The design of your environment also plays a crucial role. If you want to read more books, placing a book on your table makes it visible. If you want to drink more water, keeping a water bottle near you increases the chances of drinking it. When good habits are obvious and easy to see, they become much easier to start. Instead of relying on memory or motivation, the environment itself reminds you what to do. Small visual cues can quietly guide your behavior throughout the day. By shaping your surroundings carefully, you create an environment that naturally supports better habits and steady progress. The second rule for building strong habits is to make them attractive. People are naturally drawn toward behaviors that feel enjoyable or exciting. When a habit feels boring or unpleasant, it becomes difficult to repeat consistently. Our brains are deeply influenced by anticipation. The expectation of a reward releases a chemical called dopamine, which plays a key role in motivation. Interestingly, dopamine rises not only when we receive a reward, but even before we get it. The brain becomes excited by the possibility of pleasure. This anticipation is what makes certain habits so powerful. Activities like checking social media, watching videos, or playing games feel attractive because they promise quick enjoyment. The brain begins to crave the feeling before the action even starts. To build good habits, it is helpful to use this natural tendency instead of fighting against it. When a positive habit becomes enjoyable, the brain begins to look forward to repeating it. One effective approach is something known as temptation bundling. This simply means combining something you want to do with something you should do. By linking an enjoyable activity with a beneficial habit, the experience becomes more appealing. For example, someone might listen to their favorite music only while exercising. Another person might watch a favorite show only while doing household tasks. Over time, the brain starts associating the habit with the enjoyable experience. Social influence also plays an important role in attraction. Humans naturally copy the behaviors of the people around them. When you spend time with individuals who value learning, fitness, or productivity, their habits begin to influence your own actions. Being part of a group where a certain behavior feels normal can make a huge difference. When a habit is supported by the environment and the people around you, it becomes easier and more attractive to follow. Changing your mindset can also help. Instead of thinking about a habit as something difficult, reframing it as an opportunity can make it more appealing. A workout can become a chance to feel stronger. Reading can become a way to explore new ideas. When habits feel enjoyable rather than forced, motivation grows naturally. Attraction pulls you toward the habit instead of pushing you away from it. By designing habits that are enjoyable, rewarding, and socially supported, you create a system where positive behaviors feel exciting rather than exhausting. The third rule of effective habit formation is to make the habit easy. Many people believe that success requires extreme effort and discipline. While effort is important, habits that are too difficult often fail because the brain prefers actions that require the least amount of energy. Human beings naturally follow what can be called the law of least effort. When faced with multiple choices, the brain tends to select the option that requires the smallest amount of work. This tendency is not laziness, it is simply the brain trying to conserve energy. Because of this, habits that feel complicated or overwhelming are easy to avoid. When a task seems too big, the mind begins to delay it. Over time, procrastination replaces progress. The solution is to reduce friction and make good habits simple to start. The easier a habit becomes, the more likely it is to happen consistently. One helpful strategy is the 2-minute rule. This idea suggests that any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to begin. The goal is not to complete the entire task immediately, but to make the starting point extremely simple. For instance, instead of planning to read an entire chapter, you begin by reading just 1 page. Instead of committing to a long workout, you start by putting on your exercise clothes or doing a few simple movements. These tiny actions may seem small, but they remove the biggest barrier, which is getting started. Once a habit begins, it becomes easier to continue. Another powerful approach is to design your environment in a way that reduces effort. If healthy food is easily available, eating well becomes simpler. If books are within reach, reading becomes more natural. Automation can also support habit formation. Setting reminders, using tools that simplify tasks, or preparing things in advance can remove unnecessary effort from daily routines. Over time, repeating simple actions strengthens the habit until it becomes automatic. What once required effort slowly becomes part of your normal behavior. Progress does not require perfection or huge effort every day. What matters most is consistency. Small actions performed regularly will always outperform large actions performed occasionally. By making habits easy, you remove resistance and allow positive routines to grow naturally. When the path toward a good habit becomes smooth and simple, the brain is far more likely to follow it. The fourth rule of building lasting habits is to make them satisfying. Human beings are strongly influenced by rewards. When an action produces a positive feeling, the brain remembers it and wants to repeat it again in the future. This principle explains why some habits form quickly, while others struggle to survive. Behaviors that provide an immediate sense of satisfaction are easier to maintain because the reward arrives right away. On the other hand, habits that only offer long-term benefits often feel difficult to maintain. For example, unhealthy food may taste good instantly, while healthy eating shows its benefits slowly. Watching entertainment provides immediate pleasure, while studying requires patience before the results appear. Because the brain naturally prefers immediate rewards, it often chooses short-term pleasure over long-term improvement. The challenge, therefore, is to bring a sense of satisfaction to positive habits as quickly as possible. One simple method is tracking progress. When people record their actions, they receive visual proof of improvement. Something as small as marking a calendar after completing a habit can create a surprising sense of accomplishment. This is why habit tracking is so effective. Each completed action becomes a visible reminder that progress is being made. Over time, the growing chain of successful days becomes motivating. People begin to feel proud of maintaining consistency. Another important idea is the rule of never missing twice. Everyone makes mistakes and occasionally breaks a habit. Missing once is not a failure. It is simply part of being human. However, missing twice can start a new negative pattern. When a habit breaks, the most important step is to return to it as quickly as possible. A quick recovery prevents a temporary mistake from becoming a long-term habit. Accountability can also strengthen satisfaction. When someone else is aware of your goals, There is an additional sense of responsibility. Sharing progress with a friend, mentor, or community can encourage consistency. Over time, the small rewards created by progress tracking and accountability help the brain associate positive habits with good feelings. As this connection grows stronger, repeating the habit begins to feel natural. The brain recognizes that the action leads to satisfaction, and it becomes easier to continue. When habits provide a sense of progress and reward, consistency becomes far more achievable. Satisfaction reinforces the behavior, turning small daily actions into long-term success. Bad habits often feel difficult to break because they follow the same habit loop that creates good habits. The cue appears, the craving builds, the response happens, and the reward reinforces the behavior. Over time, the brain becomes familiar with this cycle and repeats it automatically. However, the same principles that build good habits can also be used to break bad ones. Instead of strengthening the cycle, the goal becomes weakening it. The first step is to make the bad habit invisible. Many negative behaviors are triggered by environmental cues. Removing or reducing these cues can significantly reduce the temptation to act. When the trigger disappears, the habit becomes easier to control. For example, if constant phone use is a problem, keeping the phone out of sight during work hours can reduce distractions. If unhealthy snacks are easily available, removing them from the environment can make healthier choices easier. The second step is to make the habit unattractive. Changing the way you think about a habit can reduce the desire behind it. Instead of focusing on the temporary pleasure of the behavior, it helps to remind yourself of the long-term consequences. When the brain begins to associate the habit with negative outcomes instead of pleasure, the craving slowly weakens. The third step is to make the habit difficult. Increasing the effort required to perform a bad habit can discourage repetition. Small barriers can create enough resistance to stop the behavior before it begins. Something as simple as logging out of distracting apps, placing obstacles between you and the habit, or limiting access to certain triggers can make the action inconvenient. The final step is to make the habit unsatisfying. If a behavior no longer provides a positive reward, the brain loses interest in repeating it. Accountability systems can help here as well. When someone else is aware of your goals, the cost of breaking a habit becomes more noticeable. Breaking bad habits is rarely about willpower alone. Instead, it involves changing the environment, the mindset, and the structure of the habit loop itself. When these adjustments are applied consistently, negative behaviors begin to lose their strength. Over time, good habits replace the old patterns and guide life in a more positive direction. Every small improvement builds momentum, and eventually the habits you practice every day begin shaping a better future. Habits may seem small when you look at them individually, but their true power appears over time. Every action you repeat daily becomes a building block for your future. Whether those actions are positive or negative, they slowly shape the direction of your life without you even realizing it. Think about where most people are today. Many feel stuck, not because they lack dreams or ambition, but because their daily habits are not aligned with the future they want. They may want success, knowledge, health, or financial freedom, but their everyday actions quietly move them in a different direction. This is why understanding habits is so important. Your life today is largely the result of the habits you practiced yesterday. In the same way, the life you will live tomorrow will be shaped by the habits you choose today. Every small decision matters more than it seems. Reading a few pages each day may not feel life-changing, but after a year it can mean finishing dozens of books and gaining knowledge that most people never take the time to learn. Exercising for a few minutes each day may seem small, but over months it builds strength, confidence, and discipline. Small habits compound quietly, just like interest in a bank account. The opposite is also true. Small negative habits slowly pull life in the wrong direction. Wasting time daily, avoiding responsibilities, or constantly delaying important work may not feel serious in the moment, but over years these actions create missed opportunities and regret. This is why the real goal is not to change everything overnight. The real goal is to focus on small improvements that can be repeated every single day. When habits become part of your routine, progress stops feeling difficult. Success becomes a natural result of consistent action rather than a rare event. The journey of self-improvement is not about perfection. Everyone misses a day, loses motivation, or makes mistakes. What matters most is returning to the path quickly and continuing the process. With patience and consistency, the habits you practice will slowly transform your identity, your skills, and your results. The small actions you repeat today will eventually create the life you once imagined. So start small, stay consistent, and trust the process of improvement. And if you found value in this audiobook summary and want to learn more powerful ideas from life-changing books, make sure to support the channel. Like this video, share it with someone who wants to improve their life, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring audiobook summaries. This is Richmind Audiobook, and I'll see you in the next video.